Here we go again as another winter storm hits the GTA.
It was clear and all of a sudden the snow hit. Make sure your full headlighting system is on. Visibility is very limited.
For the second time in less than a week, snow and heavy winds, ice pellets and freezing rain, all making an impact in the city. We'll tell you when to expect what and for how long. Plus,
there were multiple shots fired and the man was struck.
The SIU has been called in to investigate after a man allegedly brandishing a knife was shot by police, suffering serious injuries. And
about 15 years ago, I, as a family member, experienced severe anxiety with my daughter Stella.
Flash forward to today, and Stella's Place is expanding. The center offers free mental health services for young adults, a demographic that has been struggling hard with the effects of the pandemic. Good evening, I'm Kelda Yoon. Well, just as we finish clearing ourselves out of one winter storm, another one is here. The snow started falling rapidly late this afternoon, followed by strong winds. All of this made for a very tricky drive home this evening, and we're not in the clear just yet. Dale Manukduk joins us live in North Yorkdale. This is kind of like deja vu. You were out there for us just a couple days ago. How are the conditions out there tonight?
Well, Kelda, by now the snowfall has definitely subsided. The wind also a little bit less than it was earlier on. But these conditions are why the city opened up its 4 warming centers earlier today. I'm outside Mitchell Field Community Center. The other 3 are also open. They're at Metro Hall, Scarborough Civic, and Cecil Community Center. But after last week's storm, this is the last thing that anyone wanted, or almost anyone. Have a look.
For some people, the winter weather is their chance to polish some skills.
I'm a future stuntman, so I gotta practice. a little bit. And this is like a customized bike.
But for others like Adam Cahoon, it can be extremely frustrating.
It's one of those things where I usually know that about 1 or 2 days I'm gonna be stuck inside.
While the walkway outside the condo doors and businesses are clear, part of the city's property is not.
This would be technically Front Street, the sidewalk.
The area parallel to street parking is completely covered, appearing untouched since last week's winter blast. Typically, sidewalk clearing occurs when snow accumulation hits 2 centimeters and could take up to 72 hours. On the other side of the street is a no winter maintenance of walkway sign. Cahoon fears the successive snow events will only make matters worse. But a city spokesperson says multiple snow events is not a challenge.
We have 1,100 pieces of equipment. We have 1,500 staff members who are ready to respond. Snow clearing following the last snowstorm is still continuing at certain parts of the city, but this is not really expected to influence the response to the snowstorm.
The city is advising residents to take their time on the roads, as is the OPP.
Almost zero or very limited visibility, crashes happening across the region right now. This system is going to stay with us through the evening hours and into the overnight as well. If you're on the roads, drive carefully, safely, give yourself lots of space.
Now, Kelda, unlike last week, the TTC did not go into their storm operations, running things as usual. Same with Metrolinx. They didn't take anything or adjust any schedules. However, they did experience some system-wide delays for GO buses. Pearson Airport, they also had some delays and cancellations, many in province or in the northeast area of the United States. So they're advising travelers to check their flight statuses before heading to the airport. As usual, the TDSB and the Catholic Board will make an announcement tomorrow at 6 a.m. if there's any changes to transportation services. And I'll also note, Kelda, that we did ask the city about the area of sidewalk outside of Adam Cahoon's condo, but did not receive a response in time for broadcast. We should hear about why there is no maintenance there tomorrow. Kelda?
Thanks so much, Dale. That's our Dale Manukduk live for us tonight. And let's go to meteorologist Colette Kennedy now. And Colette, once again, a little bit of everything. As Dale said, the snow kind of subsided, but we are seeing maybe some mixing out there.
Yeah, we certainly are. So plenty of areas, right, the snow has moved on, but it is carrying on in eastern sections of the GTA to the north and to the east. And elsewhere, the storm isn't over with. We're just seeing different types of precipitation, and the temperatures kind of tell that story, where it was mostly just a rainfall event in Windsor, above freezing. Then you see all these areas very close to it towards St. Catharines. And then Hamilton, Toronto, -1. We're seeing reports of light freezing rain, freezing drizzle through these regions back towards Waterloo, Kitchener, Guelph, through those areas too. So still have that freezing rain warning in place there. And then elsewhere, it is this winter weather travel advisory. So this is going to carry on off and on through the night, even though in many cases it's lighter in terms of the precipitation. Where that would not be the case would be eastern Ontario, where we have the snowfall warning. And there it's 10, 15, in fact, a few cases locally, it'll be a little more than that, 15 centimeters, but that's going to go on into the day tomorrow. So really the radar is showing you where we're getting into some of that mixing, the pink especially, that's freezing rain or drizzle mixing in with some ice pellets. And that's what we're kind of finding in parts to the north too. You're getting some snow mixing with some freezing rain. Newmarket, around Markham, over towards Oshawa, still reporting snowfall, but that's going to change over for you there as well. And then the rain closer to the lakeshore. We have to factor the winds in here too. We're still seeing those winds gusting around 50 kilometers an hour. So where there is snowfall, that is blowing around and reducing visibility. We'll get some pockets where it's lighter in terms of how much precipitation we're seeing. But even through the overnight, it's going to pop back in with some of that mix. So early tomorrow morning, we still have the chance of that early part of the morning commute being a little bit messy, and especially untreated areas seeing a little bit of slick conditions that we're going to have to deal with. And then we do get into improvement as the day wears on tomorrow, Kelda.
Okay, good to hear. Thanks so much, Colette.
You're welcome.
The SIU is investigating after a Toronto police officer shot a man in North York. He suffered serious injuries and remains in hospital tonight. It happened around 8 o'clock this morning after officers were called to a park in the Black Creek Drive and Trethewey area for reports of a man with a knife, possibly threatening people. Chris Glover has more on what we know.
I don't know if he was walking it down at that time.
Spencer Essence' 31-year-old nephew, Devin Fallon, was shot by police this morning in North York. When he heard about it on the news, he raced to the scene to find out more and collect his nephew's dog.
He was living with me and then he left. And he goes on the road. He has a van that he drives, that van over there.
His nephew's van, now taped off, is part of the sprawling crime scene. The Special Investigations Unit says around 8 this morning, a man with a knife was walking his dog. He reportedly got into a confrontation with another man. That other man felt threatened and called police for help.
Officers responded to reports of a male armed with a knife, possibly threatening people in a park on the northeast corner of Black Creek Drive and Trethewey Drive.
The SIU says when police arrived, 2 officers used tasers on the man with the knife, then a third shot him with a gun.
I do not know if the man was running when he was shot. However, I do understand that there was a short foot pursuit, and it ended from the park and then into an intersection nearby.
Since the 31-year-old man was seriously injured, the Special Investigations Unit is now probing the exact interaction between the man and police.
I'm not clear if the affected person did make any motions with the knife, but I do know there was a knife recovered.
As the 31-year-old struggles in hospital, his uncle called Fallon's mother. Judith Spencer Haynes lives in New Jersey. She says her son has mental health issues, and Fallon called her just today asking for money for food for himself and his dog.
I don't know if he's alive or what, I don't know. I just want him to get some help.
And so that is Fallon's vehicle just behind me over there. Police on scene here were telling me that they still have a bit more processing to do with it. Now, as far as Fallon's condition, the latest that we heard is that he was in serious condition and undergoing surgery today. Chris Glover, CBC News, Toronto.
The pandemic created a mental health crisis and simultaneously exposed a gap in access to mental health care. Well, today, a new center is opening, making counseling more accessible for a segment of the population that's been really struggling, young adults. Ali Chiasson has more from the expansion of Stella's Place.
About 15 years ago, I, as a family member, experienced severe anxiety with my daughter, Stella. It was very serious. It was life-threatening. I thought, surely I'm not the only one. And after our research, found out that we were, 1 in 3 of young adults suffering with severe depression, anxiety. I said, all right, I'm onto something.
That something was a gap in accessible health care for young adults, and Stella's Place was established. Today marks a new phase with a permanent space in an expansive new building downtown.
We embrace our model that encourage young adults to come on their own terms, without the pressure of professional referral or predetermined treatment care.
And it couldn't come in a more urgent time.
You know, we are in a mental health crisis in this province.
Heightened anxiety and isolation throughout the pandemic has led to many people struggling.
We're doing everything to try to increase the number of people working in the sector to be able to provide supports and services where and when they need them.
Stella's Place gives access to support within days of seeking help, offering both group and individual counseling for people aged 16 to 29 years old.
When I started programming, it didn't feel clinical. It didn't feel like I was going to the doctors or the therapists.
Kat Romero was once a client of Stella's Place in its early years. She's now a volunteer who helped consult on its design so that Stella's Place would feel more like...
When you've had a really hard day, you go to your best friend's house, they're waiting there with a cup of tea.
The new hub downtown is a prototype for young adult-driven, age-specific, community-based mental health services in Canada.
The peer-to-peer support is on a completely different level. Like, you have your structured groups, you have your drop-in groups, but even just meeting other people who are in the same boat as you, that understand what you're feeling, kind of how you're coping, it just makes a world of a difference.
It's the kind of healing space they hope catches on across the country. Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
Billions of dollars for healthcare will soon be flowing to Ontario as part of a new funding deal with the federal government. But during an event in Mississauga today with Premier Doug Ford, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau made it clear his government will be watching to see how that money is spent. Lorenda Redekop has the story.
Today, the Prime Minister, at a healthcare announcement in Mississauga, talked about the importance of Canadians having access to public healthcare.
One of the federal government's roles around healthcare is to ensure that the Canada Health Act is always respected. This government has clawed back or withheld money or penalized a number of provinces for not having lived up to the Canada Health Act, and we will not hesitate to do so going forward.
That's as the Ontario government has tabled a new healthcare bill that would move more surgeries to private clinics, some for profit. The Premier has repeatedly said people will not have to pay under the plan.
If there's opportunities to have a facility right beside a hospital or down the street from a hospital, and again, it will be paid through your OHIP card, not your credit card, I encourage it. We have to start thinking outside the box.
Today, the Ontario Health Coalition brought together stories from several people who say they had to pay for health care in a private clinic, like one woman who needed an MRI before heart surgery.
I had to pay $2,000 with my credit card for the MRI. Now, the charge was $2,000 for the contrast medium.
Just to be clear, if you need an MRI with contrast, the contrast is covered. They can't extra charge you for contrast.
She says it's just one example of people already paying for medically necessary health care.
The Canada Health Act was meant to protect patients from exactly these types of fees and this kind of snake oil salesmanship.
The government says it is abiding by the Canada Health Act, and its plan will add transparency by making sure any uninsured charges are publicly posted.
The new legislation is remedying a problem that has existed in public hospitals as well as clinics, and it is making sure that these things are posted so that people cannot be upcharged.
All as some other provinces are still trying to reach a deal with the federal government on healthcare funding. Lorenda Redekop, CBC News, Mississauga.
All right, welcome back. And let's go back to Colette now for what we can expect in the long-range forecast. And Colette, the morning commute's still looking like it'll be quite messy.
Yeah, even though we're seeing lulls in the precipitation, we're not through this yet. So we still have some more to deal with, including some roadways that may be a little bit slick in the morning hours. So showing you the temperature story and what we're seeing, still the coldest area into eastern Ontario and further north where we have the snowfall. And then elsewhere, it's been that kind of a mix, either freezing rain or ice pellets mixing with freezing rain. One bit of improvement, you can see those winds. So anywhere you're seeing an arrow, but there's no numerical value, it's because the winds are no longer gusting over 30 kilometers an hour. So still some of these winds, 40, 45, approaching 50 kilometers an hour and blowing the snow around where we do have it. And then the radar showing you, especially into these pinks where we have that mixing that's happening. A little further towards the north, it's snow mixing with ice pellets. Into the city, we're getting reports in Toronto Island as well as some freezing rain, and back towards Hamilton still. And then, of course, some rain showers mixing in there too. So that's why we keep saying a little bit of everything here. And through the overnight hours, some fog development as well. So even tomorrow morning where there's not slick roadways, there may be reduced visibility because of seeing some of that fog. So taking you through the overnight hours, there's kind of a dry slot. We've been seeing it backing off, but it's not over with. There's still another wave to move through. This will be light in nature. I know this model makes it look really significant. It will be lighter in nature early tomorrow, but there's still going to be patchy areas where we're dealing with that. Then it moves off. This snowfall potential, this is additional, not what's fallen already. And you can see it's those areas into eastern Ontario where they still have to take this through the night and through tomorrow, and the snowfall warning towards the nation's capital. Want to show you, though, some ice still looking like it's going to pop into the city. So that's one of the issues here, that we still have that freezing rain and drizzle. The overnight temperatures kind of coming up, being right around freezing, or it will eventually push above. Right now, we're sitting just below at -1. Tomorrow, improvement in the afternoon, a weak system Wednesday, and Kelda at the end of the week looks like we may have another system, a more significant snowfall coming our way.
Oh, here we go again. Thanks so much, Colette.
Again and again.
Finally tonight, when the war in Ukraine began just over a year ago, one Barrie woman knew she wanted to help, but what she didn't expect was to take in a family of 14 and for them to quickly become a part of her own family. As Talia Ricci reports, another Ukrainian family arrived today, bringing the total number of people sharing her home now to 20.
Kathy Locke grew up in a household that opened its doors to friends and family. When the war in Ukraine started, she knew she had a calling to help.
It just seemed natural that there was a need and I needed to fill it. I love having people around, so that's why I made that decision.
The decision was to host Ukrainian families in her home that she says is way too big for just her. First, she took in a family of 14. This week, with new arrivals, there will be 20 Ukrainians total living with her.
There's an equal relationship. Like, I get a lot from them, and probably more than they do, more than they get from me.
The consensus, this group feels like one big family.
I feel very good in Canada. We live 7 months because God take this perfect woman for us. She's very friendly and she like kids. And when we come to Canada, she open door in the house and say, "Welcome to my house."
This family is so grateful for their host, they even named the newest member of their family after her.
When they revealed to me the name, I was amazed. Her name is Esther Catherine, mine being Catherine.
For Kathy, this is also fulfilling a dream she had with her husband before he passed away, to expand their family.
I pretty much adopted mom and dad, and those are all my grandchildren. And I love it.
Now here, peace in my heart, and I am very glad that I'm here, that I'm not in Ukraine now, that my children are in peace here.
Even though Sergei just arrived to Barrie, he's already thinking about the ways he can contribute to the community.
In future, if I'll stay here, I can help for another people from Ukraine, or maybe here for Canadian people.
It's that idea of giving back that keeps Kathy motivated too.
You know how it's pay it forward with a coffee? This is like same thing, except it's bigger than a coffee. And I think I'm being selfish because I really don't think I want them to leave.
Talia Ricci, CBC News, Barrie.
And that is our show for you tonight. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great night and stay safe out there.